Today, I wanted to talk about to take you apart in Unreal using blueprints. Aside from blueprints concerning gaming and simulation, do you know that you can use blueprints as tools within the editor? This is why we talk about Contruction Script in this video. To illustrate and easily explain the use of Contruction Script, we are going to focus on the build of a material, meaning that with only one master material, I could within my editor and without launching any simulation, iterate and get multiple versions of an asset without having to create multiple instances. And once you understand the process, you should be able to reproduce the system for any other use, and it can be really handy for preparing shots, for example, or for any look dev process. I'm using the Fantasy Interior environment, which is free for the month of February. First, let's create an empty blueprint class actor to begin with. Let's rename it BP_material2. I'm going to use a vase for this tool to better illustrate the overall process. So let's pick the static mesh component and select the vase we want. Before starting to build our tool via the Contruction Script tab, we should first create the master material we want. With all the attributes and parameters we want to retrieve within the tool itself. It's just like if you were creating a master material to create multiple instances later. But here, we won't create any instances, we will use our blueprint tool. Alright, let's dive into creating a master material for our vase. I rename it m_vase_master. In this material, I'm going to go simple, but you could achieve complex system if you wanted to. Remember that you need to convert to parameters the constants, values, and textures you want to use to be able to search and use them within the blueprint tool. So if we start with our color here, I'm going to use a vector3 parameter by using the shortcut V plus left click in my graph. Pay attention to the name you give to this parameter because we will need to reuse the exact same name in our blueprint afterwards. For metallic, roughness, and specular values, I'm just doing a right click on each of them and use the promote to parameter feature. You could specify values here, but it's simpler to leave as it is by default and adjust everything in our tool right after. Lastly, I'm going to use a normal map with a bit more advanced system, using texture coordinates to control the tile and size of the texture and a flatter normal node to control the intensity of the normal. I'm adding a -1 node here to keep positive values. And don't forget to convert your texture into a parameter as well. Great! Now our material is ready to be used in our blueprints. Let's build the tool now. Back in our blueprints construction script, we will now call our material we just created and use all the parameters we put in it, whether it is color values, vectors, or textures one. So first we need to specify which material we want to go with. We need to use here the node named create dynamic material instance with the target here. Don't use the Kismet material library target. In source material, we select the material we just created, which is the m_vase_master. Now the thing here is to use the correct nodes to call and retrieve the parameters we first put in place in our master materials. For that, you need to know what kind of parameters you used. If we start with the color parameter, back in our material, we can see that it is a vector parameter value. Notice the name of the parameter and just to ease the process, copy it. Let's jump back in our construction script graph, and now if you drag the execution pin from the latest node here, just type set vector parameters value with the material instance dynamic as the target. Connect the target input to the return value here. Now next to parameter name, this is where we need to specify the exact same name of the parameter within the master material. Remember we copied the name color, so just paste it here. And there we go. Just below, you have the value inputs. This is where you determine the color parameter. And the purpose of the tool here is to be able to modify the parameters within the editor, without having to go back to any additional windows or to create other assets. So we need to promote this value into a variable. Just right-click on the value and promote to variable. Let's rename it color. Remember to first compile and save after creating any new variable, and then you can set up a specific base value on the variable itself here. For example, let's give it a bit of color here. Last step is to publish our variable to retrieve it in our editor within the details panel of the blueprint. To do so, just click on the closed hide icon here. Compile and save, and now back to our scene, you have direct access on the color parameter within the editor in the details panel. So if you duplicate your vase, now you are now able to modify the color variable within the editor, and you can iterate without having to create another instance or any extra assets. That's super interesting and really powerful. I think you understand the process here, so I will continue with the other parameters I created in the material. When it comes to scalar values, I just make sure that I use the correct node, which is the set scalar parameter value. Always pay attention to the target and the exact same name of the parameter created in your material. Promote the variable and don't forget to publish it. Otherwise, you won't retrieve it in the details panel of your blueprint in your scene. To ease and facilitate all the targets and return value connecting stuff here, you can promote the return value output of our first node here and use it as I am doing here. First with the set mode variable, then recall your variable with the get mode for reconnecting all the next target inputs. Same thing with the normal map, this time use the set texture parameter value node. Makes sense, right? Let's continue with the rest of the parameters. You can organize all your graph here by using a sequence node if you want. The construction script graph is a long and linear build, so it might help to optimize a little bit things here. You can continue with the organization step when, for example, you get lots of different variables, and you can use category here in the blueprints when you select any actual variables. For example, I'm creating the normal category. Now on the left hand side in the variable section, you see the category I've just created. You could drag and drop any variables in here now. Then if you compile and save, you'll be able to see again the effect of creating category directly in the details panel of your blueprints. Awesome! Now from one mesh and one material, you can iterate and get multiple versions of your mesh without leaving the editor or creating any additional instances. Little bonus here. To demonstrate the benefits of using this kind of tool, you can use Boolean condition to add another mesh on top of the vase here, for example. Let's say you want to add plants or herbs in your vase, you can specify everything in your blueprints and iterate in editor. I'll build a simple logic here using first a branch node. The Boolean condition will be promoted to a public variable with the name mesh ? Compile and make the condition false by default by deactivating the Boolean here. So if the condition is true, what's happening? I want to add static mesh components. Its transform, I want to be able to control it directly within my editor. So I'll promote this value as a public variable. Lastly, I need to specify which mesh I want to add. So let's pick the set static mesh node. Don't forget to connect target here, and same thing as before, I want to control within my tool the mesh I want to add. So let's promote this value as a public variable as well. Let's organize everything and create specific category for this add mesh parts. Now back in our viewports, you can add any mesh you want on top of the existing one, here our vase. You'll be able to control its transformation as you want, and everything is done in a non-destructive way without lots of extra material instances or any additional assets. With all this little system I just showed you, I'm sure you'll have plenty of ideas for creating more complex and effective system for your own workflow. Thanks for watching this video. Don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel, I will really appreciate it. Thanks and bye!